The night was heavy with snow, and the wind howled across the empty land. The mountains stood like dark giants in the distance, and the frozen ground stretched out forever. It was a place where no one lived, a place where silence ruled. The snow fell in thick sheets, covering everything in white, burying life and hiding all hope. In that storm, something small moved. Half covered by the snow, a tiny figure lay curled up, her arms around herself, her body shaking. She was not human. Her skin had a soft, pale blue glow, and her large eyes blinked slowly, fighting to stay open. She was a child, no older than 7 in human years, but her body was thinner, weaker, and not made for this cold. She was an orphan, a child from a faraway world. Her people were gone, her family lost, and now she was alone. Her breathing was weak, her lips trembling as she whispered words in a language no human could understand. Each word was carried away by the wind, lost in the storm. Her small hands clutched at the snow as if she could pull warmth from the ground, but the cold cut deeper with every passing minute. She wanted to stand, she wanted to walk, but her legs gave no strength. Her eyelids grew heavier, her thoughts slower, and a deep fear rose inside her. She knew if she closed her eyes, she might never open them again. The storm screamed louder. The night pressed down on her tiny frame. The snowflakes stung her skin like shards of ice. She tried to lift her head, searching for light, for sound, for anything alive. But there was nothing. Only the storm, only the cold. Her chest rose and fell in painful rhythm. Her glow grew dim, fading like a candle in the dark. Her world began to blur, the snow beneath her turning into a soft bed. She felt her body giving up. The silence of death was close, and then, footsteps. At first they were faint, hidden under the roar of the storm. Crunch, crunch. Slow, heavy steps pressing into the frozen ground. The sound did not belong to the wind, and it did not belong to her. It was something else. Her heart, weak as it was, skipped. Fear and hope battled inside her. Was it friend? Was it enemy? Was it the end or a chance to live? The footsteps grew closer. Through the blur of snow, a shadow appeared. A tall figure, moving with effort, pushing against the storm. The sound of metal and fabric followed him, the clink of gear, the rustle of a coat. A beam of light cut through the snow for a moment, a human lamp, carried in a human hand. The girl's glowing eyes widened. She wanted to cry out, to call for help, but her voice was gone, stolen by the cold. All she could do was lie still and watch. The figure stopped only a few steps away. A man, broad shoulders, heavy boots, face covered by a scarf against the storm. His eyes narrowed as he saw her small body, glowing faintly against the snow. For a moment he froze. His training, his orders, his rules all told him the same thing: unknown life form. Do not approach. Do not touch. Report to command. But his heart told him something else. The tiny alien child was shaking, barely breathing. Her skin looked fragile, her body weak. She was not dangerous. She was not a soldier. She was a child. The man's breath left him in a heavy cloud. He looked at the storm, then at her. He knew one truth. If he left her there, she would not live until morning. He took a slow step forward. His boots sank into the snow. The girl tried to shrink back, her eyes half closed, unsure if this human was here to harm or to save. The man knelt beside her. His gloved hands hovered for a moment, torn between duty and mercy. Then, with a sharp pull, he unfastened his heavy coat and laid it over her small body. Warmth. For the first time in hours, maybe days, the child felt warmth. It wrapped around her like safety, like shelter, like hope. Her trembling slowed. Her eyes fluttered once, twice, and then finally closed. But this time it was not from weakness. It was from trust. The man stayed crouched, the storm beating against his back. He looked down at the small creature wrapped in his coat, and his jaw tightened. He did not know who she was, where she came from, or why she was alone in the snow. But he knew one thing. He could not leave her here. The storm roared, but now the silence was broken. The silence had made room for choice. And the man had chosen. The alien orphan was not alone anymore. The storm did not ease. Snow still fell like endless white rain, and the wind still clawed at the earth. But inside that storm, a decision had been made. The soldier knelt in the snow, his heavy coat now wrapped around the small, glowing child. He could feel her tiny body through the thick fabric, cold as ice, light as nothing. Her breathing was faint, like the last whisper of a flame before it dies. He stared at her face. Her features were strange, too smooth, too fragile. Her skin glowed softly, not with heat but with something deeper, something alive. He had seen aliens before, but never like this. Never so small. Never so helpless. His training screamed inside his mind. Report unknown life. Keep distance. Protect the colony first. That was the law. That was the rule. But when he looked at her again, shivering under his coat, he knew no law mattered more than this moment. The soldier had seen death before. He had seen it on the battlefield, in burning cities, in the eyes of his own men. But here, in the snow, death looked like a child, and he could not walk away. Slowly, he slid his arms beneath her. She was weightless, as if the storm had already begun to claim her. Her head fell against his chest, her breath brushing weakly against him. The glow of her skin pulsed faintly, as if her life was tied to the beat of his heart. The soldier rose to his feet, the snow crunching under his boots. The storm pushed against him, but he pushed harder. One step, then another. His lamp swung in the dark, lighting the path toward the outpost far across the frozen plain. Each step felt heavier than the last. His gear pulled at his shoulders, the child sagged in his arms, and the cold clawed at his exposed chest where his coat had been. But he did not stop. He would not stop. The girl stirred faintly, her lips moving, her voice broken by shivers. She spoke words he could not understand. Soft, strange sounds that seemed to belong to the stars themselves. He bent his head closer, but still the words slipped away like smoke. "It's all right," he whispered, though he knew she could not understand him either. "You're safe now. I've got you." Her glowing eyes opened for just a moment. She looked at him, not with fear, but with something else. Something like trust. Then her eyes closed again and she went still. The soldier's jaw tightened. He shifted her in his arms and walked faster, his boots sinking deep into the drifts. The outpost was far, but it was the only chance. Time blurred in the storm. Minutes stretched into hours. The soldier's muscles burned, his breath came in short gasps, and the snow pressed harder. But he held on. He did not let go. At last, the dark shape of the outpost rose from the snow. Steel walls, dull lights, the faint hum of machines buried under frost. To any outsider, it looked like nothing, but to the soldier, it was home. And now it was her only hope. He staggered up the steps, almost slipping. The heavy door hissed as it opened, releasing a burst of warm air that wrapped around him. He stepped inside, the storm closing behind like a prison door. The warmth hit his face, stung his frozen skin, and filled his lungs with relief. But he looked down at the child and relief did not come. She was still too quiet, still too pale. He laid her gently on a bunk, pulling the coat tighter around her. He rushed to the heater, twisting dials, turning the machine up until the room grew warmer. Then he brought water, pressing it carefully to her lips. At first, she did not move. Then slowly, weakly, she drank. The soldier let out a breath he did not know he was holding. She was alive. Barely, but alive. He sat beside her, watching as she rested. Her skin glowed a little brighter now, her small chest rising and falling with more strength. He studied her face, her fragile hands, the strange symbols that seemed faintly written on her skin. Who was she? Why was she here? Where had she come from? Questions filled his mind, but answers did not. All he knew was this. She was alone, and she was now under his care. He leaned back, his eyes heavy but his mind sharp. He knew what this meant. If his commanders found out, if the colony learned he had broken protocol, he would be punished. Maybe worse. But as he looked at her again, curled up under his coat, he felt no regret. He had made his choice. The storm outside screamed against the walls, but inside the outpost there was silence. Warm, heavy silence. A silence filled with danger, with risk, but also with something rare. Hope. And in that silence, the soldier swore one thing to himself. He would protect her. The storm outside roared like an angry beast, but inside the outpost there was calm. The steel walls shook from the force of the wind. The heaters hummed, and the faint glow of old light spread across the small room. It was not much, just a lonely human station, built for survival, not comfort. But tonight it became a refuge. The soldier sat on a chair near the bunk, his eyes fixed on the child wrapped in his coat. Her small body looked even smaller against the rough bed, her glow faint but steady. She was breathing now, slower, stronger, as if the warmth of the room had reached into her bones and pulled her back from death. He rubbed his hands together, trying to fight the sting of the cold still clinging to his skin. His chest ached where the storm had bitten through his clothes, but he ignored it. His eyes stayed on her. He could not look away. She shifted slightly, her fingers curling into the edge of the coat. A soft sound escaped her lips, a half-dream, half-word in her alien tongue. The soldier leaned closer, trying to understand, but the meaning was lost to him. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she was alive. The outpost was quiet, but machines filled the silence. The hum of the heater, the click of old generators, the distant beep of a console, all of it made the place feel alive, even if only barely. The soldier had lived here for months, maybe years. He had lost track of time. It had always felt empty. Tonight it did not. He stood and moved to the small metal stove in the corner. He poured water into a dented kettle and placed it on the heat. Soon the faint hiss of boiling water joined the hum of the machines. He found a tin of dried rations, opened it, and placed some in a bowl. The smell was plain, dull, but warm. He brought the bowl back to the bunk and placed it on the table beside her. The girl stirred again. Her glowing eyes opened, not fully, but enough to see him. She blinked, confused, frightened for a moment. Then she saw the coat around her, the warmth of the room, and the face of the soldier watching her. Her lips moved. She whispered a word, soft, broken. He did not understand, but the sound carried a question. "You're safe," he said quietly, even though he knew she could not understand him. No storm, no cold, safe. She tilted her head, her eyes heavy, and for a moment she simply looked at him. There was no fear in her gaze now, only wonder. The soldier sat back down, resting his elbows on his knees. He felt strange under her eyes, as if she could see through him. He had faced enemies, monsters and men alike, but never a gaze like this. Pure, innocent, yet filled with something deep, something ancient, as if her small body carried a history he could not imagine. She tried to sit up, but her arms shook. He reached forward, steadying her gently, guiding her to lean against the wall. He placed the bowl in her hands, showing her how to eat. She sniffed the food, then took a cautious bite. Her face softened, her shoulders eased, and she ate slowly, carefully, as if every bite gave her strength. The soldier watched in silence. Relief washed through him. She was stronger now. Still fragile, still weak, but not fading anymore. When she finished, she looked around the room. Her eyes lingered on the humming heater, the blinking console, the lights. Then she reached out with her small fingers and touched the metal wall. She traced lines across it, slow, thoughtful, and then she did something strange. With the tip of her glowing finger, she drew a shape. A curve, a star, then another, and another. Soon the wall held a pattern of glowing lines, constellations, strange and unfamiliar. The soldier leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. He had studied many maps of the stars, but these were different. They were not the stars of Earth, they belonged to another sky. She looked at him, then tapped her chest lightly as if to say, "Mine." He understood. These were her stars, her home. The soldier's throat tightened. He looked at the glowing shapes, then back at her. "You're far from home," he whispered, his voice heavy. "Too far," she nodded, though she could not know his words. Her eyes shimmered with something more than light. Sadness. Loss. The soldier sat back, his mind racing. Who was she? Where had she come from? Why was she alone in the snow on a forgotten human outpost far from any world that mattered? The questions hung in the air unanswered. The heater hummed. The storm howled outside. The child curled back under his coat, her eyes closing once more. But this time she did not look afraid. The soldier leaned against the wall, his eyes drifting to the glowing constellations she had drawn. Strange stars in a strange place. For the first time in a long time, the outpost did not feel like a prison. It felt like something else. A shelter, a secret, a place where two lives had crossed by chance or maybe by fate. And in that dark, with the storm raging beyond the walls, the soldier felt a truth settle in his chest. This child was not just lost. She was hiding, and whatever she was hiding from would soon come looking. The days passed slowly inside the outpost. Outside, the storm still came and went, never fully gone, always leaving the world covered in white silence. But inside, life had begun to change. The alien child was no longer as weak as she had been on that first night. Her skin glowed more strongly now, her breathing steady, her movements no longer fragile whispers. She still wrapped herself in the soldier's coat when she slept, but she no longer looked like a fading spark. She looked alive. The soldier watched her closely. Every morning, when the heaters hummed awake and the old lights flickered to life, she would open her large glowing eyes and begin to explore. Her curiosity was endless. She touched every wall, every machine, every piece of gear as if it held secrets. She did not speak his language, and he did not speak hers. But somehow, they understood each other in small ways. She pointed to things and he told her their names. She tried to repeat them, her strange voice wrapping around human words. Sometimes she laughed when she got them wrong. Sometimes she grew frustrated and stamped her small foot, glowing brighter until the anger passed. The soldier had never laughed much in his life, but with her, he did. Quietly, carefully, but it came. One evening, as the heater filled the room with warmth, she began drawing again. This time, instead of on the wall, she used a scrap of paper he handed her and a dull pencil from his desk. She drew stars, circles, lines, constellations. Her hand moved quickly as if she had drawn them 1,000 times before. When she finished, she placed the paper in his hand and tapped her chest again. "Yours?" he asked softly, even though he knew she could not understand. She nodded. He looked at the paper, at the strange sky she had mapped. He did not recognize it. He had served on many planets, traveled to many systems, but this was different. These stars did not belong to the human charts. These belonged to a place far away, maybe beyond even human reach. The child watched his face as he studied the map. Her eyes held something heavy, something that pressed on him more than words could. Sadness. Loss. She was not just showing him where she came from. She was showing him what she had lost. The soldier folded the paper carefully and set it on the table. He looked at her, wanting to say something, anything, but no words came. He only placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Her small body leaned into his touch, and for a moment, the silence between them felt like understanding. That night, as she slept under his coat, something strange happened. The soldier woke to a faint humming. It was not the heater, not the machines. It was her. The glow of her skin pulsed in the dark, stronger than before, as if her very body carried power. The sound was low, almost like a song, and it filled the small outpost with a strange comfort. He watched her, eyes narrowed. She was no ordinary child. Whatever she was, her body held secrets, secrets her enemies might want. The next day confirmed his fear. She was playing quietly with the console, her fingers touching the buttons she did not understand. The soldier moved to stop her, but then something impossible happened. The console lit up, lines of alien script flashing across the screen. The soldier froze. This console was human technology, old and stubborn. It had never shown anything like this. Yet under her touch it came alive with symbols he could not read. The child's eyes widened in wonder. She traced her glowing finger across the screen, and the machine followed her command, bending to her will as if it were built for her. The soldier stepped forward and shut it down quickly, his heart pounding. The child looked at him in surprise, her glow dimming with confusion. "Not safe," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "If they see this—" He stopped himself. She could not understand, but he could. This child was more than lost, more than hiding. She carried something within her, something that made her dangerous, or precious. That night, as the storm clawed at the walls and the heaters hummed, the soldier sat awake, staring at her small frame as she slept peacefully. His mind raced with questions he could not answer. Who was she really? What had happened to her people? Why was she left alone in the snow? And most of all, who was she hiding from? The answers would come soon. He could feel it because outside in the endless night sky, faint shadows were moving, and they were looking for her. The outpost had grown quieter in recent days. The storm outside had softened, and for the first time in weeks, the soldier could see the stars. He stood at the narrow window staring at the endless black sky dotted with silver lights. It should have been peaceful, but it wasn't. Something was wrong. The soldier's eyes narrowed. A faint light moved among the stars, too low, too steady to be natural. It wasn't a comet, wasn't debris, and it wasn't human. His chest tightened. He knew that shape. A ship. Behind him, the child hummed softly as she played with scraps of paper, folding them into odd shapes. Her glow flickered gently, unaware of the danger above. The soldier kept watching the light. It circled slowly, almost lazily, but he knew better. He had seen patrol patterns before. That ship was not drifting. It was searching. He turned away from the window and crossed the room. "We've got trouble," he muttered, though the child could not understand. He grabbed his rifle, checked the charge, then set it beside the door. His training sharpened his mind, old instincts waking up like sleeping wolves. The child looked up at him. She saw the tension in his shoulders, the sharpness in his eyes. Her glow dimmed, fear creeping across her small face. She whispered a word, the same word she had spoken before when her body trembled in the dark. "Hunters." The soldier froze. He had not understood her language before, but this word, this one she had repeated in fear, he understood now. Not by translation, but by feeling, by the weight in her voice. She clutched the coat tighter around herself and pointed upward toward the sky. Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She knew. She had always known they would come. The soldier knelt in front of her, his voice firm. "Listen, you're safe here. They'll have to go through me first," he tapped his chest. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the meaning. Her small hand reached for his, glowing faintly, trembling. The outpost shuddered. The soldier spun toward the window. More lights now, 3, 4. The ship was closer, circling lower, scanning the ground. He cursed under his breath. This was no chance encounter. They had tracked her. He rushed to the console and switched on the scanners. The old machine buzzed and whined, but it did its job. A large vessel hovered above the valley, its shadow blocking the stars. Smaller craft broke away, like predators separating from the pack. The soldier's throat tightened. He knew what was coming. He had been a soldier long enough to recognize a hunting pattern. They weren't just looking. They were closing in. The child pressed herself against the wall, her glow flickering wildly. She whispered the word again, over and over. "Hunters! Hunters!" The soldier loaded his rifle, the sound echoing through the small room. He checked the door seals, locked the windows, and moved supplies closer to the bunk. His every movement was fast, precise, but inside he knew the truth. Against one ship, maybe he had a chance to hide her. Against many, he had none. Still, he would not surrender her. The child's glow brightened suddenly. She pressed her hands against the wall and began to hum a strange, low song. Symbols shimmered faintly across the steel. The same star maps she had drawn before, but now alive, pulsing. The outpost vibrated with her power. The soldier rushed forward, grabbing her shoulders. "No, stop! They'll see it!" Her glow dimmed at his command, but her eyes filled with tears. She knew she could not hide forever. He pulled her close, his coat wrapping around them both. "I don't care who they are. I don't care what they want. They're not taking you." His voice was a growl, firm and unshakable. The outpost trembled again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, the roar of engines grew louder, closer. The hunters had arrived. The soldier pulled her behind the bunk, motioning for silence. His rifle rested in his hands, his eyes on the door. His breath slowed, his heart steadied. He had fought worse odds before, but never for something like this. The child clutched his arm, her glow dim but steady now, as if she was giving him her strength. Then came the sound. A heavy thud on the snow outside. Then another. And another, boots, dozens of them. Shadows moved across the window, tall and sharp. Strange voices echoed in the night, harsh and cruel. The soldier gritted his teeth. He recognized hunters when he saw them. These were not soldiers of honor. These were trackers, slavers, killers, and they were here for her. The child buried her face against his arm, whispering the word again and again. "Hunters." The soldier tightened his grip on his rifle, his eyes never leaving the door. His choice was already made. Let them come. The outpost shook as the first blast of sound tore through the night. The hunters had landed. Their ship loomed above the frozen valley like a black shadow, its engines rumbling, its lights sweeping across the snow like searching eyes. Inside, the soldier stood ready. His rifle was in his hands, his body pressed against the steel wall near the door. His breath came slow and steady, the way it always did before battle. But this time was different. He was not fighting for land or orders or duty. He was fighting for her. The child crouched behind the bunk, wrapped in his heavy coat. Her glow was faint, trembling like a candle in the wind. She pressed her hands together, whispering words in her strange tongue. Her eyes stayed fixed on him, watching every movement, every breath, as if her fate lived only in his hands. Outside, boots crunched against the snow. Heavy, sharp, merciless, strange voices called to one another, their words guttural and harsh. The soldier could not understand them, but he understood the tone. They were confident. They believed no one would stand in their way. The soldier's jaw tightened. They were wrong. The door shuddered. A claw-like tool scraped at the lock. Sparks hissed as the hunters worked to cut their way inside. The child whimpered, her glow flaring in fear. The soldier turned his head toward her. "Quiet," he whispered. His voice was low but firm, filled with calm. "Stay down. No matter what happens, stay hidden." She nodded, though her eyes brimmed with tears. Her small hand reached out, brushing his arm. The glow from her skin spread across his sleeve like soft light. He covered her hand briefly with his own, giving it a squeeze, then pulled away and raised his weapon. The door burst open. Cold air and snow swept in as shadows filled the entrance. Tall figures stepped through, their armor black and sharp, their weapons glowing with energy. Their eyes, if they were eyes, gleamed with hunger. The soldier fired. The crack of his rifle shattered the silence. The first hunter fell, sparks flying from its armor. The others roared, raising their weapons, but the soldier was already moving. He ducked behind the console, fired again, rolled across the floor, and fired once more. The outpost became a storm of light and sound. Energy blasts struck the walls, burning holes into steel. Sparks rained down. Smoke filled the air. But the soldier did not stop. He fought like a wall of fire, every shot precise, every move sharp. The hunters pressed forward, snarling, confident in their numbers. But one human stood against them, and he did not break. Behind the bunk, the child trembled. She could feel his heartbeat in the air, strong and steady. Even as the outpost shook with battle, she clutched the coat tighter, whispering again and again as if her words could shield him. The soldier dove behind the bunk, reloaded, then looked at her. Her eyes met his, wide and glowing, filled with fear. He gave her the smallest nod, the kind only soldiers gave before stepping into fire. Then he rose again, rifle blazing. The hunters shouted, firing wild. The soldier's arm burned where a blast had grazed him, but he did not falter. He stood in the center of the room now, no cover, no shield. His voice rang out like steel. "You want her?" he roared. "You'll have to go through me." For a moment, even the hunters paused. His defiance was a flame, burning bright against their cold hunger. Then they charged. The child's glow flared. She stood from her hiding place, her small body trembling but her eyes blazing with light. She ran to him, clutching his hand. The moment their skin touched, her glow surged brighter, spilling across the room like a shield of fire. The hunters stumbled, blinded by the sudden radiance. Their weapons crackled uselessly against the wave of light. The soldier shielded her with his body, rifle raised, eyes never leaving the enemy. Together they stood. One human, one alien child, against many. The hunters hissed, retreating a step, then another. The glow was too strong, the soldier's defiance too sharp. They were predators, but predators knew when prey turned to fire. The child's voice rose, her alien words now clear, echoing against the steel walls like a song of power. Her glow pulsed, brighter and brighter until the hunters could no longer see. With a final roar of frustration, they pulled back, dragging their wounded, retreating into the storm. The outpost fell silent. The soldier lowered his rifle, chest heaving, smoke curling from the barrel. The child clung to his hand, her glow softening now, her small body trembling with exhaustion. He looked at her, his face hard but his eyes soft. "I told you," he said, though she could not understand. "They'll have to go through me." She leaned against him, closing her glowing eyes. She trusted him, fully, completely. The soldier stood tall, the ruined outpost around him, the storm howling outside. He had faced death before, but never like this. Never with something so small, so fragile, depending on him. And he knew this was not the end. The hunters would come again, stronger, angrier. But he also knew something else. They would never take her, not while he was alive. The night was broken. The outpost stood scarred. Its walls burned with holes, its machines sparking weakly. Smoke lingered in the air, mixing with the cold breath of the storm outside. The hunters were gone for now, but their shadows still pressed heavy on the soldier's mind. He stood in the center of the room, rifle in hand, his body aching, his coat torn. Blood dripped from a wound on his arm, but he ignored it. His eyes were on the child. She sat on the bunk, wrapped again in the coat. Her glow was soft now, no longer blinding, but still steady. Her small hands trembled as she held a cup of water, her lips pressed tight. She had saved him just as much as he had saved her, but her face was pale, her body weak. The light inside her had burned strong to drive the hunters away, and now it flickered with exhaustion. The soldier knelt beside her. "You did well," he said softly, though he knew she could not understand the words. His voice carried the meaning. His hand rested lightly on her shoulder. She leaned against him, her glowing eyes half closed, her breath slow. He looked at the door. It was broken, twisted from the hunter's tools. Snow crept inside, covering the floor in white. The storm howled louder now, but he barely heard it. His mind was on what came next. They would return. He knew it. Predators never gave up their prize. They had seen the child's power, felt her light. They would come back with more soldiers, stronger weapons, a bigger ship. This was not over. The soldier stood and walked to the console. He tapped the screen, checking the scanners. His heart sank. The hunter's ship was still above, circling like a vulture. They had pulled back only to regroup. Time was running out. He turned back to the child. She was watching him, her eyes full of fear, but also something else. Something he had not seen in years. Trust. She trusted him with her life. That trust was heavier than any weapon, stronger than any order. He took a deep breath. He had a choice. He could abandon her, hand her over, and save his own life. That was what the rules would say. That was what his commanders would expect. But when he looked at her, fragile, alone, but still glowing, he knew there was no choice at all. He walked to the broken door and stood tall, the storm's wind tearing at him. He looked up at the sky, at the dark shape of the hunter's ship. His voice rose, strong and clear, carrying through the storm. "You can hear me," he shouted into the night. "You can see me. You know what I hold. But listen well. You will not take her. Not while I draw breath." The hunters did not answer, but the ship's lights shifted, searching, scanning. The child stepped forward, clutching the coat around her. Her glow brightened, faint at first, then stronger, pulsing in rhythm with his words. She reached for his hand, and when he took it, the glow surged again, spreading across the snow, across the outpost, up into the sky. The storm cleared. Clouds pulled apart, revealing the stars. The night became bright, filled with the strange constellations she had once drawn on the walls. Her home, her sky, now shining above them. The hunter's ship trembled. Its engines roared, but its lights flickered under the weight of the child's power. The glow spread like a shield, wrapping the soldier, the child, and the entire outpost in light. The soldier raised his rifle, not as a weapon now, but as a symbol. His voice thundered once more. "This is humanity's flame. You will not extinguish it." The hunters hesitated. They were predators, yes, but even predators feared fire. They turned, their ship groaning as it pulled back, retreating into the endless dark of space. Silence fell. The child's glow faded, soft again, but her eyes were brighter than ever. She leaned against the soldier, her small body trembling with exhaustion. He lifted her gently, carrying her back inside, placing her once more on the bunk. He sat beside her, his breath heavy, his body aching. But his heart was steady. He had faced death, faced an enemy greater than himself, and he had not broken. The child whispered softly, her alien voice shaping a single word, a word he did not know, but he felt its meaning. Gratitude, hope, family. The soldier smiled faintly. He reached out, pulling the coat tighter around her, and whispered in return, "You're not alone anymore." Outside, the storm was gone. The stars shone clear and bright, the constellations of two worlds joining in the same sky. The hunters had been driven back, not by an army, not by weapons, but by one human's choice to protect a child who was not his own. And in that choice, something greater had been born, humanity's flame.